There is new reporting from The Intercept that the Congressional Black Caucus has been targeted by the AIPAC lobby. That is, again, the Israeli lobby. And the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, hasn't actually done very much to stick up for its own members, as this reporting finds. So the CBC has been silent on the AIPAC bid to challenge at least 3 of its members who are part of the so-called squad. A loose group of progressive representatives. According to the media reports in the Intercept's investigation, the only incumbents AIPAC has targeted so far in this election cycle are CBC members. So if you understand that correctly, incumbents are always golden, right? Democrats generally stick up for other Democratic incumbents. That is unless they are progressives. And it seems like AIPAC, which has swayed many elections in the past, and we'll talk about those, is gunning for 3 progressive seats that just so happen to be held by Black progressives and who are also part of the Congressional Black Caucus. Who are those people? They're seeking to challenge CBC members, Representative Ilhan Omar, Jamal Bowman of New York, because of their support for putting restrictions on US aid to Israel, Jewish Insider reported last month. Since taking office, progressive CBC members, including Omar, Bowman, Lee, that's Summer Lee, Cori Bush, and Ayanna Pressley, have criticized human rights abuses against Palestinians or voted against military aid to Israel. They were among the 10 House Democrats who voted against a July resolution to absolve Israel of being an apartheid state. So I just wanna, this is just a random resolution that says, no, it is not an apartheid state. And they, of course, that's too much. You cannot, I would say the resolution was too much, but I wanna get into it before I give you these stats with the senator. The AIPAC-backed members of the caucus, because they're CBC members, Congressional Black Caucus members who receive a lot of money. 31 lawmakers have received a previously unreported total of $3.6 million from AIPAC since just February of last year, according to the Federal Election Commission's records. Since 2022, the CBC's top AIPAC recipients include Representative Glenn Ivey, who has taken $756,000 from the group, House Democratic Caucus leader Hakeem Jeffries, who's taken $485,300, Representative Valerie Fauci, who has taken $456,800, Representative Richie Torres of New York, who's taken $459,900, and Representative Shontel Brown of Ohio, who has taken almost $350,000. Senator Turner, Shontel Brown, you have heard of her. You went up against her 2 times in a row and got that same money poured into her campaign over your campaign. But maybe just weigh in on this new reporting of exactly how much those figures are.
Close to home, Francesca, you got that right. And she went up against me that first time in that special election. Let me just put that out. And we were way ahead before this dark money started to pour in. A question must be asked, and you just laid out who's receiving that money. And so Hakeem Jeffries is the leader there, and he is steeped in that money, so nothing is going to happen. The Congressional Black Caucus as a whole is not going to stand up for its members that are being targeted because those members are progressives. Democrats will go really, really hard. They go harder after progressives than they do after Republicans. And just because these members are Black, that will not change, because organizations like AIPAC and others, what they will say is the same thing they said in my race, Francesca, is that, we supported another Black person, which does not absolve them of it. See, I want people to understand this, that just because they pick their Black person, meanwhile, back in these districts, the Black people who live in these districts don't get an opportunity in a clear way to pick the person that they want to serve them, because they are pouring this money in. And don't forget, these are the same groups though, who also backed the Republican candidates who said January 6th wasn't a thing. They denied the election. So I want people to understand this. And another finer point, it's not even so much about what the concerns of the districts are. I want y'all to understand this. This is the concerns for Israel and not the concerns. Y'all understand this? Concerns of a foreign entity is being placed over the concerns of these respective districts. And it is okay for them to go after Black elected officials or Black people who are running i.e. myself, before they even become elected officials, and the Black Caucus not say a mumbling word. These organizations jumping into Democratic primaries. And in my case, Francesca, as you remember, it was an open seat the first time. Right. In the special election, but because we were 30 points ahead in April of 2021, they jumped in with all their might, and so did Black Caucus members too, because quote unquote, I'm not the right kind of Democrat, because I'm standing up for my people, and I'm standing up for just justice and security for both Palestinians and Israelis, and the members who are standing up saying we can't be giving our money away without holding people accountable. That is a practice of the United States, Francesca. Those members are not saying anything differently than what should be and has been the practice of the United States of America.
Yes, and there's so much to talk about. This is a massive story, and it's an ongoing story. But you're right that 37 GOP insurrectionists were supported by AIPAC money.
That's it.
They voted against certifying the 2020 election, and they got that. They got support.
They got that money.
And look, the last thing I'm going to say here is it is a wedge to drive in the Black community and Black voters and among Black politicians, and it is done very insidiously, specifically around this issue, as often Black leaders are also accused of being anti-Semitic. So remember that this is all conflated. It is a way to accuse Black Americans of being anti-Semitic if they do not fall in line with all of what Israel does against its own population, against the population of the Palestinians, and to say nothing of its own corruption that it's undergoing right now in the judicial system. So it is.
Francesca, I hope after the break we come back to this 1 minute, because I see the break sign going up. This story needs a little more.
Let's do it.
Even Donna Edwards, who is no flaming progressive.
No.
They came at her. She had Nancy Pelosi, then Speaker Pelosi at the time, and some other very high profile Democrats backing her, and they still came at her with a vengeance. To do this kind of thing, especially to the Black community, and to pick the Black face that they want.
Yeah.
Hello, somebody. Yeah, we need to have a long conversation about this, Francesca. If I had papers, I'd throw them right now, as I used to do, as you remember.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.